Hi, Tarot AskBackWords here. It's August 18th. I have about 5 different things I want to do tonight. I want to go on record as saying what they are first in case I forget to do any of them. The first thing is about, I got a hit today in just out of the blue about Nancy Pelosi. I want to look at her energy. And it was just random. Also, I'm going to be launching something called AA, the Tarot Way, Alcoholics Anonymous, the Tarot Way. I haven't had a drink in almost, it'll be a year, September 7th, I believe. But it wasn't by design. A couple of things were at play. As most of you know, I've discussed this several times. I don't have a valid driver's license right now. I also have a car, which I think I've explained, that since my father passed and I walked out of the apartment that in which we resided, the title didn't come with me, nor did the registration. However, in Massachusetts, the foundation has to, of course, be the title, and I think in most scenarios it does. It would either go into probate and I have a legal counsel for it. I haven't done anything about it. So those two factors and the fact that I live with someone who forbids it have prevented me from drinking in the house. The last time I drank anything was in Boston. Around the time of a concert, September 7th. And I've been fine without it. But all of a sudden I'm kind of like wanting to dip my toes back in the water, if you know what I mean. So since I've been able to go without it, I have to say I've had more energy. There are a lot of, I could write pros and cons of not doing it, and I could come up with more cons than pros. But when you ever get a craving for something and you don't know why, especially for something that is for all the wrong reasons, something you probably shouldn't do that contributed severely to my father's decline mentally and then ultimately physically. But then again, I've shown restraint in ways he couldn't, but yet was it really restraint because I was sort of in a sort of quarantine, if you will? I'm kind of going back and forth on it. So what I did was, and again, this is going to sound really ridiculous to people and self-serving, but there are reasons, there are things here on this earth to tempt us, but there are also reasons that earthly delights are here. We're never going to experience them again in this incarnation. So getting back to what we did last night about forgiveness, maybe it's about forgiving oneself and trying to learn those tricks of moderation. But then again, you never know what it could lead to. He and I are separate people, and that's something I want to acknowledge too by trying that, because our paths don't have to be the same just because we do or like certain things that are the same. Those parts of you that you like shouldn't have to be sublimated because some part of them was wrong in some experience you had, should it? So what I did before I go any deeper into this was I drew cards today. And the cards I drew made sense. They were telling me not to. And 2 times I drew the 5 of, and I won't draw any more on these, but it's anyway called AA. It's called AA, the Tarot Way. Okay. I drew the 5 of Swords. I drew the King of Cups, the 9 of Cups reversed, which is a dead giveaway of absolutely not. The 5 of Swords reversed, which means it's almost like you're going to turn on the aspect of yourself, and a switch is going to be flicked, and you're going to turn into the old self who is just concerned about getting the fix. And I know that that part of that character is in me as well. And maybe if I had been the type of person who weren't a drinker, maybe I could have, but see, I'm past that part now of regret. I can say it and not feel it anymore. Something shifted, I can't explain it, where he's concerned. The other thing is, the other card I drew, I can't remember, but the two that stuck out to me that came out twice was the Five of Cups. The Five of Swords, where he's sort of separated himself, and a lot of times as an alcoholic, we do that. And the, what do you call it? And there I go, calling myself one, so that should be the telltale right there, right? And the other part was, the King of Cups. No, the Nine of Cups reversed. So, a couple things going on here, as I just said. So I'm not even going to bother to deal with that. The very fact I'm talking about it probably should be an indicator I shouldn't. It wasn't a planned move, but it just kind of snowballed into something, and now I'm not even sure my body will tolerate it. So yeah, that's that. The other thing I wanted to talk firstly about before I go into any sort of readings is truth versus insight. Especially on these channels, a lot of times we have insight that's pointing to a greater truth. And that's why summarily or in blanket statements, when readers are saying things to the effect of these readings we're doing are guided by spirit, we're picking them at random, and they're going to have resonance, or they could have resonance for the collective, or they could have resonance for you personally. I almost feel as if that's a disclaimer in a way, and an apology for not reading your question, or in another sense, because there are little dots, there are little, you know how we learn things when we're doing a job, for instance, we can pick from one person, pick from another, and we learn to hone our own craft, and all of our own crafts over the years have been derived in whatever capacity from those who came before us, whether it's our ancestors or, craftsmen or whatever. I feel that applies, but where does the line draw between truth and insight? In other words, opinion versus fact. I think the line is almost even I don't want to say gray, because there's a definite, in this country, we've distorted opinion to the point where it does become fact, and news has become so diluted that we almost look at the news corporations as sites, swirling more toward one political side than another. But with insight, it's more difficult versus truth or fact, because a lot of times something can be insightful, but it doesn't have to be true. And something true doesn't necessarily have to have stemming from it or have great insight. But the point of all this is, when we're doing readings of any type, and we're reading from our own guts, I don't mean like spilling our guts, but gut, we're reading based on insight, in a sense, because we're not knowing every aspect of the story, but it's pointed, almost like, in pointillism in painting, when all of that, or in certain aspects of music where it's almost like a tapestry of things coming together that will resonate. I feel that's a lot of what makes the art of tarot and reading so interesting. But the part of it that, getting back to my original point, is insight versus truth. I think someone can say something that will have an ounce of insight, but it might not be true, in the sense that there's no absolute truth, whereas in news there's editorializing the truth. I think something can be insightful, but it doesn't have to be true, meaning I had a reading through someone, and this is, I'm not going to say the reader, where they pointed to something that made sense, but it didn't, it got to the truth of the matter, but there was no way the reader could have known the truth. I almost feel as if the skill set that people have is based off the energy of the question more than it is a channeling, especially when we're talking about mediums. And when they don't, of course they don't know the quote-unquote truth of everything in your life, but when they do point to that insight, that's the divination, okay? And that's something really, really to be treasured, because you can pay lots of money to get therapy. But when someone strikes a nerve with something that may not be part of the truth, but has resonance separate from it, that can lead you in the right direction, that's to be commended. But when we're talking about news and fact versus fiction, that's such a dangerous thing. For some reason, my guides are telling me to want to touch on that a little bit. The other thing I wanted to talk about tonight, before I load this for tomorrow, oh yeah, I was thinking, since I might have done sippy, I might not have as much energy tomorrow, so I was contemplating doing the energy reading for the upcoming week, which I'm thinking I kind of want to do again with the deck of character. But firstly, let's do the reading on Nancy Pelosi. So we'll do the reading on Nancy Pelosi, the Ask Backward reading for the upcoming week, where the cards elicit an answer and I posit the question. So yeah, really good energies this week. I've really thought since the portal, everything's been kind of normal, you guys. I haven't really, and I did have a dream last night. I don't really remember a lot of dreams. Part of it's the sleep apnea I have. Some night I'm going to do a video on the sleep apnea, because it can play a role in dreams, and with dreams becoming such a central theme on a lot of channels now, I kind of want to start doing something with that. And the presentation with the mask and all. Something also my guides are telling me to do. But, what was I going to say? Oh, so, yeah, Nancy Pelosi. I was just sitting here today, and every now and then I'll doze off for like a minute if things get slow at work, and I've done I'm current, and I don't feel like reading anything more medical or anything. I'll, just start dozing off for like a second. I'm not asleep on the job, I promise you. And she just came into my mind. I do not know why, but I must read on her. So let's do this. The God of my angels, why did Nancy Pelosi come into me in the theta state? Why did Nancy Pelosi come to me today in the theta state? For entertainment purposes only. Why did Nancy Pelosi come to me today in the theta state? Putting aside all bias, putting aside all notion of speculations. Oh, and that reminds me. I grew up mainly in New Hampshire. I spent 11 years there. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about the Democratic Party having an issue right now, because this has been bandied about for a while. The Democratic National Committee, again, with its thumb on the needle, and so many people disagree with me about Biden. He's not my favorite candidate, a person. I still believe, for entertainment purposes only, that he was the one behind whom the DNC got, because they believed, and it's probably true, stood the greatest chance of defeating Donald Trump. And to say that might be heresy, but on the other hand, to have not said it would be denying the truth. It's not insightful. It's probably the truth. It's undeniably. But I still feel, and this is going down another rabbit hole, we needed people like Bernie if we're going to start moving this country forward. And right now we are in a scenario where, and as much as you might dislike Robert Kennedy, I do not support him. I think he's a wackadoodle in a lot of ways. He made a valid point about and it was on Bill Maher's show, about the establishment media versus the legacy media, he calls it, versus these shows on YouTube, where a lot of times Marianne Williamson or he will get more play. And he's saying that this will be the first election where it's going to be decided if the legacy media is going to win out, or if I don't want to say the Newsmaxes and things like that, because in some sense I feel that since Fox came around, they are the establishment media, or part of it. However, my point is, Biden was elected, and I feel as though you can't tell me that a whole bunch of candidates got into a race just to get out of it. Does that make sense? It almost felt choreographed, as if we all are coalescing around the idea that Joe Biden is the only one that can win, or the DNC is telling us that. And again, I feel that more than the Republican Party in some ways, and this is a detriment, they do a lot of micro case studies to kind of reinforce their points of view, when it could exactly be the exact opposite. So we as a party could have the revolutionary effect that's positive to affect that change, whereas the negative things that the Republicans want to do have the exact momentum that we need with them. Okay, and we need to be mindful of that this election. So anyway, back to my original point about this. Joe Biden is going along with the DNC, saying that South Carolina should be the bellwether, or will be the first state to have a primary. Usually, New Hampshire has always had a rule that they must, and we've gone along with it, or I don't say we because I haven't lived in New Hampshire for 21 years. No other primary will come until New Hampshire, and then a week after. But this year they want it to be for the first time South Carolina, and New Hampshire's pissed. The DNC, or the Democratic Party in New Hampshire, is mad about this. So they're hoping they can get a write-in candidate, and that write-in candidate can actually become more of a force. And that kind of circles me back to Robert F. Kennedy or to Marianne Williamson or somebody, to kind of steal the thunder from Biden, is kind of what the impression I got from this very short Boston Globe, or the short part of it I read today. But my point was Pelosi in reading on her. But so yeah, let's get back to that. But be aware of some of the ripples that we're going to start to see within the Democratic Party again. I just, we don't need that right now, you guys. We don't. But if the DNC could just take its thumb off the needle, it would be so much better. It really would be, in so many ways. All right, why am I seeing Nancy Pelosi in my third eye? Past energies, forces in motion, greatest challenge. Wow. Future. Okay. All right, let me look at these. Speaking of what I got upside down this morning, you guys, I got it again, not for Pelosi in the past energies. How was this? No, this is coming out this way. Current energy, so okay. Okay, right, give me a second. She's really happy right now. And I wouldn't think so after the year that she and her husband have had. And what's interesting about this is the reverse energy was the White House upside down, but I have to flip it up. And I'm wondering, you know what I'm thinking, right? I know she was pulling back a little bit, or I got the sensation she was pulling back, but would she ever run for the White House? Or would she somehow end up in there? Past energies. I'm seeing here for some reason a very, very destructive, decadent Republican Party falling apart. And with all the cups, I'm thinking overindulging. I'm thinking, I've got the red here, I'm thinking Russia, and I'm thinking the funding that maybe they're still giving. But I see some type of youthful somebody trying to give her a message that maybe in the past it was time for new forces to step up into leadership in the party, and she needed to go, and it was an opportunity for her to retire gracefully, preserving her energy and preserving her legacy. But now I'm starting to think, with the crossing energy of the Strength card, what's going on here, guys? Because then when I come in and I come into the future, I see, as I've shown you, but then I see a victory potentially, or is this a victory for the GOP? And that could happen if she doesn't get in the race. In other words, right now, presently, we're celebrating Trump's indictment, right? And all the things that are going wrong, well, that are going right for us, but going wrong for him. White House upside down would be the biggest nightmare that, you know, if he were to take it. But we're supposed to read it as the biggest challenge to her. Meaning, is she running for president? And then the strength card is a crossing energy, meaning it's transiting. And then in the future, a victory, or Trump has victory over her, or the Republicans have a victory over her. Is she going to be a nominee? Is she going to emerge somehow? Is she going to be seen as a better alternative for some reason? In what line is she in succession? In succession, where does she fall? Like if Biden weren't able to complete his second term, or if the Republicans somehow win over her, is she the greatest chance we have? I've got to get a clarifier on this. And then the last card was this reversed. Constraint, so total freedom. Freedom for women, freedom from Trump, freedom from the devil, freedom from enslavement to a patriarchal society, enslavement to old ways. But can that only come if she's president? Remember how they used to say Dianne Feinstein might have made a really great president? She might have been one of the only two women maybe 25, 30 years ago that could have done it. She or Nancy Pelosi. Is that what's going on here? Let me ask another question. Or is she getting behind? Is she going to bring someone? Oh, wait a minute. How do I want to ask this? Will Nancy Pelosi ever be president? Will Nancy Pelosi ever be president? Hold on a second, you guys.
Ask your question.
Will Nancy Pelosi ever be president?
I am cautiously optimistic.
All right, you guys, I've got to read on this. Is there going to be some other type of someone interceding because Biden does resign? Or not resign, has to leave office? And that's what the caution is? Cautiously optimistic, meaning we could be on the precipice of some sort of, I won't say coup. I think that's far past us, God forbid. But by the skin of our teeth, are we gonna somehow find the Republicans able to do something, not per se with this election, but to undermine the next term of Biden, or Biden's going to be... Will Nancy... I'm just going to ask this because I don't know where to go with it. Will Nancy Pelosi ever be president of the United States? I'm just going to draw one card. I'll draw three. This again. I would interpret it as no. The past and reminiscing about how it could have been, that time, I feel like that ship has sailed when I look at this, but we remember these times fondly. Also, although it could mean giving to get, I don't know, I'm gonna say hearkening back to a time when things could have been better if she had thrown her hat in the ring, maybe. But that opportunity is gonna have to be, and that mantle is gonna have to be taken by someone younger who's on message, who's better on message. And I almost feel like they have to be better on message. Otherwise, I'm going to say this because it's reversed, is a trump card. In other words, maybe she's going to play a role in some aspect of Joe Biden's next presidency, a greater role than we suspect, or to help get this sort of element out of Congress and help us get further, but I don't see her being president. I don't know you guys. All right, and then the other thing is using, let me put these away, using the deck of character, if I can find it, this monstrosity. Well, I think I'm not going to use the deck of character this week. Kind of feel like using the Kipper, given all the legality, the litigious Trump stuff. But we need a collective message. I mean, we don't know what kind of message we're going to get, so we want to be able to discern, you know. You know what? Let's use the tarot again. I'm not really happy with this idea, the Kipper. God of my angels, please give me the Tarot Ask Backward, Thou Father art in heaven. Reading for this week. Instead of doing the daily, I'm just going to put out about 5 cards and see what I can glean from that. Sorry this is so long, folks. I just want to get everything done. I'd be remiss if I didn't, but then again, I kind of want a relaxing weekend. That's kind of why I set aside a day trip for tomorrow. Let me tell you the genesis of tomorrow and why it's that way. We were supposed to have a company party about a month ago. Truth is, I didn't want to go. But to humor somebody around me, I told them I was going to go, but I told them it was rescheduled. So tomorrow I have to find a place to go, but I'm going to find a place to go for me. Anyway, back to this. God of my angels, what message do you have for us this week? Our Father art in heaven, the Tarot Ask Backwords. Message, answer that begs for a question. What is that question this week? Okay. Really important week for the divine feminine. Really important week for reassessing or assessing Planned Parenthood. I see potentially things coming to light, and I'm not answering any question right now. I'm just meditating on what I'm seeing. Things coming to light about how the illegal or quote-unquote unhealthy abortions are taking place. I don't want to say coat hanger abortions, but with this reversed, it makes me think of barren or infertile, or instead of pregnant with the possibility, I see not only literally pregnant, but I also see a reversal of resources being put into keeping our children and our mothers and our whatever safe. And then with the moon card, another very feminine card. Before that moon card, which to me in this instance is the hidden truths revealed, some very dark truths, and I'm wondering if it's going to come in on the political side as something that may be men have been toiling and toiling and toiling and toiling, and finally this before the moon means that all the corruption and all the things against women and all the things against maybe gay marriage and all these certain things are going to start to come to light, maybe about politicians and their own personal lives. And then finally, instead of being the sort of phenomenon where these people are winning at all costs, they're going to realize that what they've done is lose everything. But I'm trying to see what the greater energy is, people, for the week. What's the question? If you had to put a question on this to which these 5 cards, and it doesn't have to be in sequence to yield the answer, what is it? I think it's going to be a really big week for truth. I think certain things that are social political are going to start coming more into the forefront about how rights have been infringed upon, but yet the personal lives of these people are going to start really, really coming to the fore, and they're going to start looking really, really bad, and more hypocrisy is going to start to be shown. So I would say, to what extent are we going to see, and how is the truth going to show itself this week? And then I don't see anything personal, I only see political in this. So yeah. Okay. Bye.